And please let me know if my voice is audible or not. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
You sound very clear.
Thank you. So we are going to start the session in just a few minutes. And to be exact, by 11:10 we'll be starting because the participants are joining up. And if anybody wants to introduce himself or herself, he or she can do. Or anybody wants to add something, or anybody wants to, say something, or anybody wants to, suggest some improvements, he or she can do that. So my name is Ashwin. As I already told, I'll be the speaker for this session. And this session is all about how to write your first book. So before starting the session, let me explain you the structure of this session. This session is distributed among three parts. The number one is, of course, the delivery, where I'll use slides and explain the topics. After that, there is a feedback session. And before the conclusion, we'll do the feedback session. I'll share the feedback link in the chat only, which will be visible to all of you. You can fill the feedback. And the third part is the certificates. And there is, good morning, everybody. There is one requirement for it, that you have to fill the feedback form, but this is not mandatory. To get the certificates, please fill the feedback form and write your name as you want in your certificates. And if you don't want to fill the feedback form, just write no, and then also the certificates will be issued. And this is free webinar. There is no cost involved, and the certificates will be mailed by tomorrow evening, that is 1st June. So anybody has any question, please let me know. If anybody wants to share something, he or she can do that. So coming back, book is one of the finest arts. I think I've shared the pre-reading material with you, so must have gone through it. And that it is one of the most, prestigious arts from the arts family. And literature is considered as the foremost, art in the sphere of arts. The other art forms can be sculpture, drawing, singing, but the philosophers and the psychologists have considered written form of, you know, of art, or you can say where language is involved, where thoughts are involved, of course, are considered as the most popular or the most reputed art forms. Hello, Christian. Nice to know you. Thank you for joining the webinar. Good afternoon. So it's 11:07 in India. I think it's 1:30 or 1:37 probably in Philippines. And I think they have just finished their lunch. I hope the session is not clashing with their lunch time. So everybody by 10:30, so I'm sorry, 11:10 will be starting the session. And I welcome the new participants again who have joined recently. Sure, I'll tell you about. So that's the theme you're talking about. And the title should meet the theme. Title should, agree with the theme of the content of the book. And on the other hand, it should be different altogether. It should be unique, which attracts eyeballs. No, we don't need any specialization in writing a book, but the thing is, we need some inspiration, some consistency, and strong thought of completing the book. And of course, we need planning, which is the most important thing. How you would write a book, how would plan your content. And I welcome everybody again because there are a few new participants who are joining up. I welcome them again. And so we'll start the session now. But before that, let me tell you again the structure. There are three parts. One is the session, of course. We'll be delivering the session. We'll be discussing. If you want to interact, you can interact. And then there is the feedback session where you'll be, giving the feedback, sharing the feedback. From the feedback form that I'll be, sharing through the public chat in this Zoom software only. And the third part is the certificates. Certificates are dependent on the feedback. If you're filling the feedback, you'll be getting the certificate, but this is not a law. This is not mandatory. If you don't want to fill the feedback form, you just write no, and will be issued the certificate. But the point is, you should write the name in the name field of the feedback form in the same way in which you want your name to be published in the certificates. So thank you everybody for joining. So we shall start with the session. And yes, so my name is Ashwamit, and once again I'll be the speaker, and I'm telling this once again, I'll be the speaker for this session on how to write your first book. I think most of you are writing, or most of you wants to start to write a book, and I think you're excited, and I'm also excited because this is the most challenging as well as the most beautiful form of art you're going to learn. But I tell you in the beginning that nobody can teach you to, create art. Nobody can tell you what you would do. But the thing is, at least somebody can tell you can use these instruments, you can use pen, you can use these colors, you can use this combination, you can use that combination. But still, you are the actor, you are the hero, you are the heroines, you are the protagonist. We are just the supporting actors. We'll let you know like these are the things, and you have to go and you have to fight the war, fight in the war, or whether you call it, you go and win something. So it's up to you how you take all these information and put into a bunch so that it becomes something which is called as the book. So this session is all about how to write your first book. I think most of you are aware of writing, of course. That is very easy, and that is the most basic thing that we are learning since our secondary or primary education. But the thing is, we have got matured till now. Like in the last session, we were also discussing, we have got matured, and we have to write something which should appeal to somebody. And of course, if you want to write for the audience that are the teenagers, of course we have to think in their likings, in terms of their likings and their dislikes, and then we have to write. So the most important thing here becomes the content. But before that, what to write? The thing is, it's you should not take your perspective in writing. The thing is, you should take the audience perspective, what the audience wants, what the audience wants to read, if you want to get success commercially in this business. And of course, there is commercialization, starting with the industrialization back then in back there in England. So the world is now commercial, but that's not the reality. There are other NGOs, there are some other people who don't believe in these things, but still we should focus on the commercial part of the book. And the very important part there is, very important thing, or one of the important things, is to understand the perspective of the readers, what they want to read, what they likes and what they prefer is the most important question. Okay, so before going any further, let me just check if other participants have joined or not, so that they don't miss anything. No, nobody has come yet. So thank you everybody for joining again, once again. And you're welcome everybody. Yes. So coming back, how to write your first book. So let's move on the list of the topics that will be covered. So we'll be dealing with what is a book. We'll understand the basics of what is a book, like what are the things involved, how many types are there, and in that we'll learn the structure of the book. What is the most preferred structure? What is prevailing in the industry? Or it is divided into three parts: beginning, middle, and end. The structure can be divided, of course, in beginning, middle, and end. We'll see what comes in the beginning of the book, what comes in the middle of the book, and what comes in the end part of the book. And then we'll discuss about the content, which is the most important thing. And there we'll talk about the themes, how to create themes, what are the English instruments. Like of course I'm talking about grammar, English grammar, where you can use what instrument or what part of grammar you can use to enhance the meaning, what enhance the content, or create something interesting out of this. And then I think most of you know what is ISBN number, but we'll see a small glimpse of how to get one. And but it doesn't it's not our duty, it's not the duty of the writer to get ISBN number. It is done by the publisher only, whether you're doing self-publishing or whether you are some your publisher publishing house has agreed to publish a book without any initial cost and promise to give you royalty out of it. So, but still, you should know how to get an ISBN number, and this is for India. We will be discussing about how to get an ISBN number in Indian context. What are the things? What are the websites? And I'm pretty sure in your country, like Philippines, then Taiwan and Russia, they have their own setup. You can definitely Google it. You'll find it out. India, in India, ISBN number is free. You don't need to spend a penny on it. The fact is, you need a book for that, and there are a few documents you'd be needing for that. So we'll be discussing all these things in the coming chapters. So let's start with the first part. And if anybody wants to say something, anybody wants to add something or share something, or anybody is excited to tell something, definitely you can say at any given point during the webinar session, because it's a free session. There are no restrictions. You can definitely speak up. You can ask me something, or you can even tell me if I'm wrong. I hope I'm not wrong because I've done a research on it. But if you still find me wrong, please let me know and I'll correct it. If it is all good, then not an issue. So these were the brief uh, parts of the topic that would be covered in this session. So that's book, then it's structure, content, ISBN. So let's move on to the first topic, that is the book. So the technical definition of the book is there. It's the manuscript after being processed in a publishing house. So initially it is the manuscript. What is manuscript? Manuscript is scattered form of written content, a written piece of, you can say, paragraph or essays, and it is bounded, or it is compiled at one place and bounded with some glue or some, you can say, something else, or some specialized glue uh, in the form of book. Then it becomes your book. So prior to coming as a book, it is a manuscript, and manuscript is the written form of information, written form of the content, as we have already discussed. And to become a book, it needs to be collected somewhere in same place. For example, you can see that cat is reading a book, right? And I think she has found something good there, and probably, and the purpose of the book is just for reading. I do not think there is any purpose. Of course, you can use, if you want to distract your cat, of course you can share the book to the cat, but in reality it's not possible. So the reading of the book is the most important part of the written content. You must be saying these things are very basic, but the fact is the literature becomes literature by reading and not by writing. If you ask the philosophers, if you ask the psychologists, they will tell you that the reading part is very necessary for any writer or any reader, because it is the gap, or you can say it is the bridge. It's not the gap, it's a bridge that it's a form of bridge that connects the thoughts from the writers to the readers, because reading is what makes literature to go live. Reading puts the life in the literature also. So a book, I think it's meaningless to tell the definition, but still everybody knows about it. It's the manuscript at the first place, and when it is processed, it becomes a book. And the product of that processing, and the processing is done by any publishing house, and the output is the book, and it would have pages, it would have many things, and it would be divided into the divided into different spheres based on what the what it has been written, what has been written there. Okay, so it's very basic. It's a book that contains the imagination, that contains the information in the form of written language, in the form of language that is written. Okay, to understand this, you can take any book around your any book and you can check it out. But the thing is, most of us skip the things that are very important. We just go to the chapter which we want to read, or we start with chapter one, but we miss a lot many things. Most of us, I'm not saying everybody does it, but most of us do it. We don't consider a book to be a book. It's the most important entity anybody can get in his life, because books are the most honest friends. And there is a saying that the house which doesn't have a book, it is like a body without a soul. Because there are so many people, there are so many authors, they're writing their books. There is so much information compacted inside numbers of books. Even the holy books are in the form of a book, so we can definitely get a lot of information from those books. And it tells you the art of living, how to live, because this is the most basic thing in life. And books can teach you a lot. Talking about the books in my country, especially the holy books, we have Vedas, we have Gita, we have Puranas. Okay, these contain the gist of life. Like it has, these books will tell you what to do in what condition, or what to do in what circumstances, how to react, what could be the outcome. They will also predict. These books will also have a prediction of what would happen if you do this and if you do that. So books don't take book non-seriously. Books are very serious. But I'm not saying to be serious yourself, but saying take the book seriously. Whatever book is in your hand, please read it thoroughly. In fact, if you're reading, for instance, in PhD, we have to read at least 300 to 500 books on our topics given to us, and then something will happen to you. It's called it's in Hindi. It is called Gyan Chakshu, which means the eye of knowledge. It will sprout out of nowhere in your brain, and you start understanding the things from the root to the top. Okay. So reading is most important. Reading is most desirable thing in life. Anybody should, if anybody should wants to consider it. So let's move on to the next part, that is the structure. So we have divided the structure of book in three parts: the beginning, the middle, and the end. So in the beginning, you can see these things. So how can you define the beginning of the book? Everything that comes before the first chapter of the book is considered as the beginning, or it's considered as the part of, or it's considered as the content which is described before the first chapter of the book. And let's see what are the content. There could be dedication or acknowledgement, there could be forward, preface, introduction, prologue, epilogue, table of contents, and table of contents, sections of the book. But the thing is, everybody knows about this. Everybody some sooner some point in their life have gone through it. And but most of us do not know the importance of all these things. Okay, so in the coming slides, we'll be discussing all these things, like what is dedication, how to write dedication, what is forward, what is preface, what's the difference, what is prologue, what is epilogue, and where these fits in, what to do about it, how to go about it, how to write it, how it belongs to your content. Okay, so before going any further, I'll excuse me for 1 second. I'll check if other participants have come or not. Yes. And if the session is getting monotonous, please let me know. If you're getting bored, please let me know. Okay, so we'll move back to the part. We were discussing. So we were on beginning of the book. Thank you, thank you. So we were on the beginning of the book. So, and the beginning can be defined as the content which is there before the first chapter of the book. And this includes dedication, acknowledgement, forward, preface, introduction, prologue, epilogue, and table of content. I think most of you are aware of this, but let's see what is there exactly, what happens in. So we'll start with the dedication. Dedication is nothing but a thought or a written content, a thought in the form of written content, where you want to dedicate your book to somebody. That could be your lover, that could be your family, that could be your friend, that could be anybody. Okay, so dedication means you are offering something, or you are, proposing your thoughts in a very respectful way, or very, in a lovable way, or very, in a lenient way, or very in a gratitude, in gratitude, or like in a very, polite way, or in a very respected way, or in a very, way in which communicates your love or communicates your respect for the person. So dedication, this is the example. This book is dedicated to, that's a funny example, but you can use this. You can write the dedication before, for anybody you want. So it'll be, suppose you want to dedicate this book to your father, if you want to dedicate this book to your mother, or your sister, or your family member, or your kings or niece, okay, or some uncle, or somebody which you really feel. Okay, okay. So if you want to dedicate your, feelings, if you want to dedicate the content of the book, and if you want to dedicate the whole book to somebody, you can definitely do that. So let's move on to the next part. It is acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is something, you can see the example. It is written by the author only, of course. And here you acknowledge, the people, here you acknowledge the things. I'm sorry, here you acknowledge the people, here you acknowledge the crowd which might have helped you. This is generally, seen in the thesis paper, where you acknowledge the people who have helped you. Suppose if you have gone to some, institution for data collection, there a teacher might have helped you, or a student might have helped you, or a whole bunch of people might have helped you, so you can go there, or a bunch of people might have helped you, so you could have gone, you know to an extent of acknowledging them. You think that these could be supposed as the ones which can be acknowledged, those can be acknowledged. So in that case, you can put the things in the part of acknowledgement only. And there can be, one acknowledgement, two acknowledgement. There can be, it depends on if you're self-publishing, if you're paying, then the thing is, you can do whatever you want. But if it is published by the publisher and they're not taking anything from you, then please keep in mind that you have to, edit the content, or edit the things according to the publisher. So acknowledgement is nothing but it's a thanksgiving. I'm sorry, it's a thanks note where you show gratitude to the public, or to the people who have supported you in, developing or in writing the book in whole. Okay, so move on to the next part. Forward, preface, and introduction. So all these things tell something about the book, of course. And the forward is the most important thing, because it plays a role in, popularizing your book, or making your book get reputed, making your book get its name in the society, or in any nation. So this forward is important. It is not written by any of the authors, or those who are authoring the book. at any given point of time. It is written by somebody else. Suppose if some minister is writing a forward for your book, or some important personality in your country or in your district is writing a forward for you, and it will tell you that the forward part will tell you that why anybody should read this book. And if it is written by some reputed people, then the chances of your book getting space is high, okay, in the market, because there is big competition out there. Lot many people are aspiring authors, and as we have already discussed, it is the most noblest form of art, to sharing knowledge. And it doesn't involve anything. It just involves the food that we eat, because that will go to our brain and entice the things out. So the input is very less, okay. The cost of input or the cost of processing is very less at the end of the writer only. Of course, if the publisher accepts your content, if they like your content, then probably they will publish it. And if the publisher is good, reputed, and in no time will be an established author. But the main point is, the most important point is, your content has selected by the publisher. You got selected by the publisher for writing as their author. So that's the most important thing. We'll see what are the things that are generally accepted in terms of India, like in terms of Indian audience. Because and so the next part is preface. Preface is written by the author himself, and it is like you want to tell a story about the book, like why you have written the book and why the book came into being, why you want to write it, what are the thought process, what motivated you to write the book, what are the things involved in inspiring you, how many things are involved. So it's up to you. Like the main theme, I'm telling you the theme only. So forward is why to read this book. It is by somebody else. Preface is why the book came into being, and I am handing over the writing part to you, because it depends on you how artistically you put the things. Okay, how attractive you write is your capability. And for this you have to read a lot many books. You have to sift the information, you have to marshal the data out of the content. You should read famous authors and famous poets and famous fictions and famous non-fictions, okay, so that you get an idea how things go. And last is introduction. And in introduction, you generally brief the main idea of the book. And these things are generally, forward is found in most of the books. You can see forward there. Preface can be found, but introduction is generally done in very formal writing. For instance, thesis writing, or you're writing for PhD, or you're writing some academic books, or you're writing some other books. Okay, so in that case, you can use the technique called introduction. You can use a page dedicated for introduction. So I think it is clear up till now. Am I going good? Is there any problem? Anybody? Please let me know. So I'll improve it. Thank you. So move on to the next part. And this is the examples of forward, introduction, and preface. So in forward, you can see George P. West has written the forward for some book. And of course, he's somebody reputed. And then you see the introduction, and then there is a preface. So you can definitely check out the example. So if you want to read it, you can read it, go through it once, and you'll get an idea how things are going up, how the things are going through. So you can definitely read it. But the fact is, this is just the carrier. This is just to make you understand like how things are there. But if you are writing your part, It will totally depend on your capability, your ability to write something. So the theme we have already discussed. Forward is written by somebody else's, and why you should read it. Introduction is you are introducing the brief idea. In preface, you know, you can tell why the book came into picture, what is the inspiration, what the thought process behind it. Okay, so there is forward, there is introduction, there is preface, and all these things come in the beginning part of the book, that is before the first chapter of the book. I think it is clear. I think these are very basic things, but most of us do not know it because we don't bother about it. We just start reading the book from chapter 1 or whatever. Okay, is it blurred? Oh, but it is readable, I think. Okay, I'll mail the PPT so you can check it out in your houses, because I'm running this webinar session from a phone. And okay, so let's move on to the next part, which is one of, so before understanding the prologue, I'll share the PPT. Don't worry, sir, please. I'll share the PPT to everybody so you can, you can get a revision also by that. And I'll be sharing by today evening to everybody who are attending right now, who are there in the session. And so before getting to know what is a prologue, yes, I'll share the PPTs. Don't worry. Thank you so much for asking. I'll share the PPTs. So before understanding the prologue, let's just understand what we have learned in now. These are something which is written in a very formal way, okay? And it might not relate to the content in terms of the artistic essence of the content. What I'm saying is the content is written differently because that is art. And up till now, what we have learned, like preface, introduction, or prologue, or I'm sorry, preface, acknowledgement, these are formal part, and these doesn't have the same language like the content or like the book in which it is written. Okay, but prologue is written like the language or the diction which is used uh, in the book. Okay, in suppose if you're writing a fiction and you have used some first person narration or third person narration or whatever you have used, or you have used a certain way of telling your things, you suppose you write too many adjectives to it, so prologue will be written with the same content. I mean same content. Technically it will be equal, it equals to the way you're writing in the content, where you're writing the rest of the book, chapter 1 to 3 for a section. So prologue, and let's see what is the purpose of prologue. I believe the prologue is hook. It behaves as a hook. Okay, it connects, or it's tell you the brief idea about what will happen. You can conjecture, you can make a guess what could be there, and it just you know creates the background for your book. Okay, and it is generally found in dramas, it is generally found in fiction book, and even in non-fiction book you can do. So I think everybody is aware of fiction and non-fiction. That's a very basic thing. Fiction are the stories that are imaginary, and at the same time they could be interesting, like sci-fi, science fiction. On the other hand, fiction, non-fiction is not imaginary. These are the real events that gets space in the book. Okay, the difference between non-fiction and fiction is the imagination and reality. So prologue is to make the readers understand and contextualize the main events of a book. So prologue is basically to make readers understand and contextualize the main events of the book. So I think it is pretty clear. It is the introductory part, of course. And sometimes background of characters and their info is also explained. And it is generally written like the rest of the book technically. I'm talking about the way you are writing the book, or the way the book has been written, where the story has been put up. It can be formal or informal. It can be a creative way, or it can be very straightforward. It can be humorous. It can be serious. Okay, it can be tragic. It can be comedy. It can be tragicomedy. Okay, so you the same part or the same thing, or you can say it's the drop from the ocean. For instance, the ocean is the book, the complete book, and the drop is your prologue. So, but drop is that kind of drop which is telling you, which is giving you a glimpse, which is, suppose you go to the beaches, you visit beaches, and you know, taste the seawater. It is salty, and you can, make a guess, or you can say that the whole of the, ocean is salty, of course. So, in the same way, you can fit the analogy here. Prologue is that drop of the ocean where you can get a glimpse of what could be there in the novel. And it is also like an introduction. It is also written like an introduction, and it sometimes gives the background of the character and their info, and that we have already discussed. Yes, prologue motivates us to read the book further. That's right. And so let's move on to the next part. So that's the example, one of the example of prologue. So you can see what is happening. Okay. So we can wait here for some time, and you can read it, how the prologue would start, and what could be the things there. I have not included the book, but you can make a guess, like what could be there, what is the mood of this writing, and what can you expect from the book. Okay. Meanwhile, you can say, I didn't understand, I understand. Because it is like, talking to a wall. And if you please, reply, meanwhile, like after 30 seconds or 1 minute. If you wish so, I think the session will be more interesting. A session would be better. And yes, tragedy and unbearable pain. So you got an idea what is happening. What could you expect? You can create your expectations here from the book, and it might inspire you to read book further, or it can also tell you don't want to read anymore because you're not, you know, you don't want to read this kind of stuff. Okay? But this is a hook, which motivates you, which inspires you to go further, to understand the context, or to go further reading the book. Yes, that's right. Prologue must develop curiosity. That's right. Okay, so you can, see it. You can write out. Okay, so move on to the next part. I think prologue is clear. So in books, in some books you would find an epigraph, and epigraph is a phrase, a poem, or it's a quotation which suggests the theme of your book. For instance, you can, say, suppose if you're writing about the books on ethics, like as we have discussed in the previous session, you can put a quote there. It is by Mahatma Gandhi. It is said by Mahatma Gandhi that uh, it is good to be important, but what is most important to be good. And there and then you can realize that this book could be about the that ethics, or this book would have some moral teachings. This book had something which deals with the morality, right? So to make the book more interesting, or to attract the reader's attention, or you can say inspire, or you can say motivate, okay, you write epigraphs. And there are n numbers of definition. I'm giving you the brief idea, basic idea. You can Google it up. You can get many things there: how to write epigraphs, how to write forward, how to write acknowledgement, how to write preface. But the thing is, I have authored a book. That's why I could tell you like what things are there, and what struggles I faced, and how to become an author. I can definitely tell you from my experiences, because I have recently published one book that is of English poetry, 101 English poetry. And so I can, in this session, I'll be sharing the experiences further. Okay. So epigraph is clear. I think it's not everybody knows about it. And it's a phrase, it's a poem, or you can say it can be a phrase, it can be a poem. Thank you, Bart. And could be you can imagine, or whatever you can put, or you can even put a question there, okay, which matches with the theme. Okay, so it totally depends on you, how you use these instruments, or how you use the content, how you utilize, where you put the things, like how you structure your things, where you create the puzzle or solve the puzzle. Basically the book is a puzzle. Okay, if you take this analogy, book can be compared to a puzzle, and you have to be a puzzle solver, and it requires a lot of hard work and planning to do it. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. Table of content. It is very easy. It's nothing uh, to be understood. Okay, everybody knows. The point is there, how efficient it is aesthetically. So the book can be, written and can be, presented aesthetically. So the presentation is the look and feel part, and the content is the actual part. Okay. So if you compare these, there are two parts. One is the look and feel, and one is the meaning. So you can create aesthetic effects in both of these. Okay, you can, you know draw diagrams, and you can do something. You can tell your publisher to, I want this design, I want that design, I want that kind of stuff. And the meaning wise, it depends on you. You have to use all the instruments that you have from English literature or the grammar of your language, where you can write in a very interesting way. Do not make people, get stuck. You should have coherence in your writing. You should use proper cohesive agents also. Okay, so let's move on to the next part, that is the middle, which is the most important part. It is the story, the actual content, and this is the most difficult part as well, but at the same time it is most interesting, and it is most inspiring. It motivates, it can change life of the people, because if you read self-help books, okay, or if you read books that suggest people how to live, for instance the holy books, okay, right, the holy books can, tell you lot many things, right, how to live your life. But the thing is, this idea in itself is very amazing. It is supernatural. It is more than, it is beyond the imagination. Okay, So you are learning how to live your life, and it is being taught through a book. So the book itself is, you know, beyond. It's precious. The book itself is precious. Yes, that's right. It touches our soul. It can change the overall psyche of a human. It can impact, psychologically. Good books can transform our lives. And there is one book I remember, it is called Power of Positivity. I think most of you have learned, and there are books from Dale Carnegie, How to Make and Win Friends. Okay. Then you will know Harari has written the book 21 Lessons for 21st Century. These books you should read, and I'm sure they will transform your thinking. Thank you, Guy. Thank you so much. These books which I've mentioned, like 21st 21 Lesson for 21st Century, and Dale Carnegie series, then The Monk Who Sold His Red Ferrari, these books can transform your soul. These books can transform your thoughts, and that is the power of the story in the book. And if it is written in a very convincing way, in a very inspiring and motivating way, then it always adds to the impact of that, positively, of course. Okay, so let's see how to manage the middle part of the story, which is the content, which is the actual, you know, part of your story, which is the actual thing you should focus on, which is the most important part as well. So let's see what we have here. So the most important part and the most precious part should not be started abruptly. It should need, it should be done using proper planning. For instance, if you're writing a novel, that is, if it is non-fiction, then I think the planning part is easy because you already know the story. You just have to write in your own way. But if it is a fiction, it is imaginary story, what you would do. So in that case, you have to plan first. Probably it might take 1 week or 1 month to plan the book. Okay. Do not start writing abruptly. Or some people, do what they start writing, and then they realize it should be like this, and then they go on for writing sometime, and then they realize this should be this, and this typically, ends in a hodgepodge. And then for month since 1 month they are doing these things, and then they are stopping and restarting the whole process. So it is just killing your energy. Do not do that way. Please plan up and use the theory called that theory is called distributed cognition. You can use it. You can, sit in a group, take the help of people. Okay, you first plan what are the parts of the book you're going to do, what are the parts of the things, what are the ideas you'll be putting. Okay, suppose if you want to write about a love story, if you want to write about your biography, or if you want to write about something that really has impacted you. For instance, you want to write an imaginary story of two people coming from, Australia. One is from Australia and one is from New Zealand, or one is from India, or one is from America, one is from China. Okay, so try relating the things up. For instance, there is a story. Okay, the two people met at a college somewhere in India and they fell in love. Okay, that's an imaginary story. So what you do, you first create the ideas that comes into your mind in a paper. You create the idea. Yes, that's right. Yes, we have to plan it properly. So the thing is, you decide a theme. For instance, theme can be decided later, but before that you can at least sit, okay, in a peaceful place, or whatever you feel, whatever place in which you feel comfortable. Your mind should be relaxed. First of all, you should relax your mind, and there should be conducive environment around you. You should sit and you should start, generating idea. Okay, you keep on thinking, and suddenly idea would come, write it down. Okay, and then the related idea would come on. You please keep writing those down. Okay, and suddenly you realize something, you write it down. Suddenly then you realize something, then you write it all down. Okay, and then after some time you go back and recheck it. Okay, because according to William Wordsworth, writing is like a poetry. Yes, that's right. Acting without plan is like a journey with. That's right. That's right. Okay. So according to William Wordsworth, they have he has given the definition of poetry, and I think it is applicable here as well. He says that poetry is the overflow of powerful emotions. Those are recollected in tranquility, which means you are overwhelmed by emotions. Okay, you are overwhelmed by emotions, and when you sit in a place, when you are sitting idle or when you are alone, you recollect those emotions and try writing it down. Okay, so for writing an imaginary novel you need experiences. Writing a fiction or non-fiction, you need experience. Okay, because you are the machine who is producing the idea. Your brain is the machine that is producing the idea. So I'm not saying if you're writing about, a war novel, then you should, visit a war happening, okay, somewhere near you. That's not what I'm saying. But you can imagine, you can create. Okay, brain has the capacity to create ideas. Okay, because that is hidden in our schema. Because if you know about the concept called collective unconscious, it is proposed by Carl Jung, then I think you will understand what I'm saying. In Indian literature, in Indian spiritual literature, it is called Akasha. It says like the human beings have their own internet, organic internet. Okay, they have their own organic internet, and we are connected to the supercomputer, which is called Akasha in Indian context, and it is called as collective unconscious by Carl Jung. So the things are always there. We are connected. Okay, and we don't know. Our ancestors, they knew somehow how to connect to that superconscious. Okay, but we do not know. But sometimes while we are dreaming, while we are thinking, while we are brainstorming, we get something. We get something at least, and that something can create magic. It was Carl Jung. Okay, I think that's probably some other people. Not an issue. But the point is the theory, collective unconscious, which is important, as I have discussed. Okay. So the point here is to inspire you. You get inspiration. Okay. Everybody has the capacity to generate idea, but everybody do not have the capacity to put it in a way that should appeal to the audience. Yes, call Jung. Okay. So the thing here is, I want to convey, or want to tell, or want to discuss through this session is to inspire and to put a flame in yourself to write a book. I cannot inspire you. I'm not that. I do not have that capacity to inspire anybody. But at least I can help you, and I can tell you that you can write a book. I can give you the confidence. I can share my ideas with you, how I've written, and you can definitely use those and help yourself in writing the book. But I'm repeating again, once again, nobody can teach you art, but somebody can teach you the instruments. You are the person, you are the protagonist, you are the hero or heroine, you are the main actor, you are the lead actor who would do it all over, because the fame would come to you only. Okay, thank you. The fame would come to you only. Okay, so Planning is important. So as I've said, you collect your ideas, write it down, and after a week or after a day, you check it again and see whether they are coherent, or what is the relationship between those ideas, and you try to connect it and try to build it. Okay. But the point is, when you start a fiction, when you start a non-fiction, you have to have a characters. Okay, you have to have a concept called characters. I think everybody is aware of the characters. Okay, characters are people who perform the action. In case of drama, these are played by the real people in imaginary situation. In place of, you know, a place where the place where there are books. I mean, in place of that characters in book, it is played by the writing you write. It is explained by the adjectives. It is told by the adverbs. It is understood by the context of the tenses. Okay. So the thing is, how you paint your character, how you make your character interesting. I think Sherlock Holmes, everybody is aware of Sherlock Holmes, right? In India, it is called like there is one detective called Vyomkesh Bakshi. Okay, so I think if you know the character Sherlock Holmes, you can see, you can feel the character, you can understand what are it, what are his motivations, what are his aspirations, how he behaves in the situation. That's the most important thing. Okay. So let's move on to the next part, fiction and non-fiction. Okay. So imagination creates reality. This is not what I'm saying. It is also said by the famous physicist Albert Einstein. Like he once said, like when I sleep and I dream, I am 100% sure that I live in the other world. And in our Vedas also it is written, the world is not because of the world, it is because of the observer. And according to that scientific theory called scientific part of physics called, I'm sorry, that part of physics which is called quantum physics, there is that experiment. Like, yes, there are two parts, coherence and cohesion. Coherence, let me tell you, it is the logical ordering and grouping of idea at thoughts level, and cohesion is the actual implementation of coherence in at sentence level, at paragraph level, or at essay level. For doing that, we use subordinating conjunctions as well as coordinating conjunctions. Okay, so that we'll learn. Okay, okay, that we'll see there. So imagination creates reality. Okay, so how it creates reality, I think that's a big debate. That's all a different sphere. We are not here to discuss on that. But the fact is, there can be fiction, non-fiction, as we have already discussed. In this sphere of literature, you can either write the real drama or you can create your drama and write. Okay. So how you create the drama, how you create the context, how you create the content. Okay, what things you would use. Here I'm taking the perspective from the English grammar part. Suppose if you're writing a novel in English, suppose you're writing a fiction or non-fiction in English language, so what instrument from that can use. So take this English grammar here as, you know, that paints. Okay, and you, the pen as paintbrush, and you right to draw your characters or draw your story. Okay, so you can take adjectives, you can take adverbs, you can take the concept called coherence, and I think we have cleared it before, that coherence is planning. So if you are planning the things up and you are making a logical ordering, I'm sorry, if you are creating logical order, then your novel is in natural flow, and it will be liked by the people. And cohesion, I think that's the spelling mistake. I'm sorry for that. If it is cohesion, then I think we can, you know, implement those things in. Thank you. we can implement those things. Those by those things I mean coherence in our writing only. Then there is narration, which is very important, and there are phrases which we can use. Okay. So we have adjectives, we have adverbs, we have coherence, we have cohesion, we have narration, we have phrases, and lot many things. And apart from these things, we have ourselves, we have our brain, and which is the most important entity that will create something, that will generate something. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. Narration is very important because this is how you tell a story. Narration is used in grammar, in spoken languages. Okay, so narration can be first person narration, it can be second person or third person. So you can choose based on the theme, based on the things you, based on the topic you're writing, you can choose which narration to use where. Okay, so here is an example of first person narration. I think we can see that. Okay, it is, I think it's visible on your screen also. So first person narration uses I, me, we. Okay, and that's an example, and you can see the difference. Okay, what is happening, what would you expect, okay, from this, or what is how interesting it looks. If it is not interesting, then what are the things you can use to make it interesting. Okay, so I was standing next to the wall of that spooky house, and suddenly out of nowhere a man appeared to ask how we were. We were afraid until our toes and shaking like an earthquake. Okay, so that's an example of first person narration where we have used I and me and we, and see, you can figure it out, the drama it is creating, the dramatic effect it is creating. I think it is attractive. Yes, that is also one of the ways you can use. I was standing next to the wall of that spooky house, and suddenly out of nowhere a man appeared to ask how we were. We were afraid until our toes and shaking like an earthquake. Okay, let's compare this with the second person narration. Okay, now the second person narration, you choose the pronouns you, your or yours. Okay, and it creates different effect. Okay, I'm not suggesting you, like these are self-help books, like in self-help books these type of narrations are used. It is up to you. You can use a mixture of it. You can use all three in a novel, or you can use a single one. Okay, depending on your need. Okay, second person, you, your and yours. You were standing next to that spooky house, and you were afraid till your toes and shaking like an earthquake. Suddenly out of nowhere a man appeared to ask how you were. Okay, so let's compare it with the first one. I was standing next to the wall of that spooky house, and suddenly out of nowhere, a man appeared to ask how we were. We were afraid until our toes and shaking like an earthquake. And let's compare it with the second person. Narration, you were standing next to that spooky house, and you were afraid till your toes and shaking like an earthquake. Suddenly out of nowhere, a man appeared to ask how you were. Okay, there's a difference between first person and second person. And let's see the third person narration where the pronouns used are he, she, it, and they. Okay. She was afraid until her toes and shaking like an earthquake as she was standing next to the wall of the spooky house. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a man appeared and asked her how she was. Okay. So I think you can use this particular narrative technique. Thank you, Paulino. This particular narration technique, while while you write, or while we write fiction. Okay, so let's again understand these techniques. Let's compare. I was standing next to the wall of that spooky house, and suddenly out of nowhere man appeared to ask how we were. We were afraid until our toes and shaking like an earthquake. And then we'll compare this to this one. Okay, thank you. It is quite clear, not an issue. So we'll move on to the next part. Adjectives, adverbs, and phrases. So as I already told you, these are the paints which you can use to paint your novel. You can use to draw or paint your characters. Okay. So I think most of us do not know how to use adjectives. or how to use adjectives in a very efficient way. And probably most of us know it. Nobody can guess, nobody can make a guess. But still, you can use adjectives, adverbs, and phrases to your advantage to create something out of nowhere. Okay. So here the order of adjectives are given. I think adjectives are clear to everybody. What are the adjectives? I think everybody knows what are the adjectives. Yes. Thank you so much. Let me again tell you, adjectives are those words, those classes of words that describe a noun, or you can say it further describes a noun. And the thing is, there is a difference between adjectives and adverb. Adjectives are only for nouns, but this is not mandatory. But by default, adjectives only describe noun, but adverbs can describe or further clarify nouns or pronouns, adjectives, phrases, sentences, and another adverbs. Okay, there's the main difference between adjective and adverbs. Okay, so adverbs are generally recognized by the fixes called ly. Consequently, severely, weakly. These are, adverbs. Okay, so this is the ordering of adjectives which you are seeing on the screen. So you can use all these adjectives in that order particularly. And there are at least 12 adjectives in English language which can be applied to any word. I mean, any noun. Okay. For instance, good, strange, beautiful. You can add good to anything. Okay. Any noun. It's a good house. It's a good painting. It's a good performance. Okay. It's a good car. These adjectives are universal. So you can check it out on the internet. What are those 12 adjectives which go with every word? For instance, in America, they don't use passive voice. They prefer active voice all the time. And they have created two words, okay and yeah. These are universal and it can be also applied to anything, any statement. Okay, okay and yeah, okay and yeah, okay. So this is the proper order: quantity, quality, size, age, shape, and color, or proper adjective, or purpose or identifier. So this is the example of the same thing, but I have not used many. You can use these many adjectives in this particular order, but if you use all the adjectives in a single sentence, then it will become too clumsy, too complex. So we better avoid it or use 2, 3, 4 adjectives until and unless it is necessary. So one example I have given there: if you speak like this, you will say like this: I love that Jeep that always parked at the end of the street. Okay, that's a simple sentence. When you add adjectives to it, you start adding colors to it. I love that really big old black antique Jeep that always parked at the end of the street. So you can feel the difference. So the impact of your writing, the impact of the sentence has increased. It will attract users' attention. It will attract the reader's attention. And this is what you need. Remember, in the beginning of the session, we have discussed about, yes, that's right. In the beginning only, we have discussed you have to think from reader's perspective, not your perspective. Okay. If you want to get success commercially, you have to understand the reader's perspective, not your perspective. Okay. You have to understand the reader's perspective first, what readers want. This is the first question you should keep in mind, and then you start creating your story. For this, these are the instruments. I love that really big old black antique Jeep that always park at the end of the street. And it will let the readers, it will entice the readers to imagine. It will create the scenario. It will create the object. Okay. It will create that sphere. It will paint their brain. It will paint their, thank you. I'll be sharing that. not an issue. Definitely by today evening, I'll be sharing to all of you who are attending. Thank you so much for the compliment. So I love that really big old black antique Jeep that always parked at the. Thank you, thank you. Sure, sure. I love that really big old black Jeep, antique Jeep that always park at the end of the street. And why I'm not giving too much examples, then you'll pick it up, and then thank you, you're welcome. Because then you'll pick it up, and then you because it will attract, it attracts. But the purpose is you should create your own creation. Then the word called author, or then the concept called author will be will be really coming out. Okay. So you should be the protagonist, you should be the hero, or you should be the heroine, or you should be the number one contender for your novel. So I love that really big old black antique Jeep that always parked at the end of the street. And this adjectives and adverbs and phrases help the imagination of the readers. Okay, it helps the imagination of the readers to conclude the reality. If you give proper adjectives, if you put proper adverbs, if you put proper phrases, then what are you doing? You are creating a reality out of imagination. It will feel real to the readers. Or you can create your own reality through your novel. Okay. So remember, adjectives, adverbs, and phrases are your instruments. Okay. You use thesaurus, you go and look for dictionary. As I told in the earlier session, you go for vocabulary.com or dictionary.com. You can get a lot of trendy words. Okay, from there you can check it out. You can description of adjectives. Okay, and you can get a list of adjectives as well on the internet, to describe something. So the point is you have to describe the thing so that the readers get a feel that yes, this is okay. They can relate. Okay. So let's move on to the next part. So the end part contains all these things. Okay. Epilogue, bibliography, and appendices. Okay. Epilogue, I think it is written after the novel or fiction is completed, and it tells you about what will happen when the story will end. And bibliography is the references where you tell what the instances of the thing. This is related to formal writing. It is related to end of your I'm sorry, it is related to the instances which you have taken from the sources. Okay, for example, if you're writing your thesis paper and you read 200 books, and you've taken something and paraphrased and wrote in your and has written in your book. So in that case, you can tell the bibliography, you can write the bibliography there, so that you don't get the so that we don't get caught with the plagiarism thing. And the plagiarism thing is very important. Okay, there are plenty of sites online where you can go and check whether the written content is plagiarism or not. You can check how much your imagination is copied or how much it is not copied, because we create the instances, and everybody is human and we can think in similar ways. That's of course can be a coincidence, but still it is better to check it out. So appendices, I think that's a technical part. That's what the definitions that we write. Okay, suppose there is a chart and there is a clue there, like there is some summary of that chart, and the actual chart is defined somewhere. So that definition place is called appendices, and you can check it out. Everybody has different opinion about bibliography, appendices. You can go online and check it out, and you can understand. So your instruments are adjective, adverb, phrases, and imagination. So how to use an instrument? First, you have to plan it, what you want to write, create thoughts, create coherence. Okay. Then put that planning into written action using adjectives, adverbs, and phrases. Phrases, there are so many phrases. Use idiomatic phrases where applicable. You can use proverbs, or you can create your own proverbs. You can even use poetry. Okay. The thing is, the fact is, nobody is there to judge. I mean, nobody is there to restrict you. That is the power of writing. You can write anything. That is the freedom you get. Okay. That's the power of novel. You can write anything, whatever you like. But the point is, but one thing should be kept in mind, that you should write whatever the theme is liked by the audience. If you want to get successful commercial, or otherwise you can pay and write as many numbers of books you can. Okay. But in India, it is like, if you have done PhD, and after that, if you're writing a book, then it adds to your profile. Okay. So for Indian students, if you're doing PhD, please publish your book after your PhD. But that's not mandatory. You can even publish your book before that. Okay, so let's go to one of the important parts, ISBN number. So we'll be discussing about how to get the ISBN number in Indian context. And you can see the full form of International Standard Book Number, that is ISBN. And it is required when your book get sequenced, or when your book get enlisted with the commercial distributors. Okay, so you can see the part. There is EAN prefix in the registration group. I'll let you know. And there is registrant, then there is publication, there is check digit. So EAN is European article number, but it is changed to international article number. And registration group and registrant tells about the publisher. Okay, registration group is the country specifically. Okay, which part of world is registering it. Publication, it tells you the editions, publication number. Check digit is something which qualifies the it is calculated using some modus 10 formula. You can Google it up. And this is the distribution. EN, European article number. Okay, but now it is called international article number. And that these are basically two, 978 and 918. And it so that distinguishes your article. Okay, and then it includes the registration group, and it generally denotes the dialect or the creole or the language or the society which from where it has been registered. Registrant is about the publisher. Who's the publisher? It is the information about the publisher. And publication, the number is 0 or 2, 02. Yes, that's in National Library. You can definitely do that. It depends on different things. It depends on different part of the world. It depends on the machinery there. And there is the check digit. Check digit is basically the one that is calculated after a formula, after applying a formula. That is modus 10 formula is there. So let's see how to get ISBN number in India. But let me tell you before starting this, you don't need to think. Thank you, Kavalpreet. You don't need to think about getting an ISBN number if you are doing a self-publishing, as well as if your book has got selected by the publisher to publish. In India, the popular publishers are Penguin, then HarperCollins, and there are n numbers of publishing house. But the thing is, the publishing house does matter, but what matters the most is the content. It is like a YouTube channel. If the content is good and it is preferred by the audience, the channel will grow. So in India, this is the website, Raja Ram Mohan Roy National Agency for ISBN. So that's the link, http://isbn.gov.in. So there, I'm sorry, you can go and apply for the Isbn number. There is no cost involved as such. Okay, but there are requirements. You need to have a photo identity card. You need to have a PAN or Aadhaar card. You need to have a cover page. You need to have a title also and a request letter. Request letter can be downloaded from the Rajaram Mohan Roy Agency for ISBN website only, and then you have to fill it up and create a PDF and upload it. Okay. So while creating, there are two things. You have to create the application. You have to log in using application. In that case, you need a PDF copy, soft copy of PAN card or Aadhaar card in India, a UID number, and the cover page. And it starts when your book is ready. Please keep in mind, your cover page is ready, your title also is ready. Okay, and then you'll go on, doing all these things. So it is post, creation things. When you have created the content, your book is almost ready to publish, then these things will happen. So this is the example of this is the left side. Right side is the title verso page, and that is your uh, that page. What I say, that application form page. Okay. So before going to conclusion, I want to share the feedback form. Please do fill it. Okay, because we are at the end of the session, almost there. And before concluding the session, I want everybody to fill the feedback form. And please remember that the feedback form is a requirement for the certificates. And please be honest. Okay. And if you don't want to fill that, that is also okay. Okay, so I'll be sharing the feedback form here through this window, and please fill it up. You're welcome, everybody. Yes, Vaishali, you can unmute and speak. You can message me privately.
Actually, my question is, what if we want to write in a particular technique? For example, stream of consciousness. If I want to, I really like Virginia Woolf, and if I try writing in her technique, is it like difficult, or what would you recommend? What should we try?
Hello. Yes. Yes. What content you write? Yes. Let me tell you. If you write on political agenda, I'm sorry, I forgot that. Thank you for reminding that. If you write on in India, I'm talking Indian context. If you're writing on political agenda, it will run throughout. For instance, if you're writing on COVID-19, or for instance, if you're writing about Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi ji, or you are creating a fiction out of it, you're writing a historical fiction that runs in the business. Poetry do not run. Please do not write poetries unless you are some very big poet uh, from Bollywood. Please do not write poetry. Nobody likes it. Only that will be liked by the literature part, and that is very small. Okay, in Indian context, because I've written a poetry book and I'm suffering. And I've went to a lot many publishers. They say they won't like poetry books. They have advised me to write fiction or non-fiction or novel of any kind. A young novel sells a lot. Okay, look for Chetan Bhagat's novel, how he writes. Okay.
But if I consider Chetan Bhagat's novel, I would not consider it of that standard. I'm sorry, but not.
Yes, yes, yes. But that's the whole point. Na? That's the whole point. If you want to be successful, you have to think from the perspective of your readers. That's the whole thing. That's the whole business. You have to understand. You have to gauge what your readers are looking for. Because if you look there onto the YouTube channel, that Pooja, her name is, I don't remember the name. Her videos are viral. So you cannot think, like, you cannot imagine, like, you know what could be successful, but still you can make a guess.
But Chetan Bhagat's novel, like, I don't know, I don't like it because it's more like a Bollywood masala. I find it, completely ready for the Bollywood rather than being for a good read. I don't find that good enough so that I would be, spending my nights reading his books. So I'm more into literature and everything.
That's good news. Like, you can write what you want. That's not an issue. But the fact is, you have to work on your end, because if nobody is buying, nobody's, because think now whether you want to write a book for the sake of apprehending your career or adding to your profile, then it's good. You can write anything. But if you want a commercial success as well, then you have to think about what people are what people are looking for in a book. That's the whole issue. Hello. Hello. Is my voice audible? Please fill the feedback form. I have shared onto the chat window. Thank you. Thank you. And by today, I'm sorry, tomorrow evening, the feedback forms, I mean the certificates, will be issued for all of the participants who have participated since the first webinar, and it will be mailed to your email ID. Thank you. Thank you, Krishan. Thank you so much. So the fact is, you do not know which book will run, but at least you can see. Somebody might not like Chetan Bhagat. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Sure, sure. I'll definitely. For that, please share your email IDs at least. Okay, no, I do, because like, I have so many participants for this session. I don't know why they haven't appeared. But please, if you do not want to fill the feedback form, at least fill the email ID so that I can, because I'll be sending only the feedback. I'll be sending only to those people I'm talking with certificates who has filled the feedback form. And because in that case, I get an idea, because if I close the session, I won't remember who has attended. I think of broadcasting this. I'll let you know. I have shared the feedback form link in the chat window itself. Please take a look. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. You'll get the certificate. So don't need to stay respected. You get the certificate by tomorrow evening. Everybody will get the certificates. But the fact is, please fill the feedback form and please write your name. Ishan Surya. Just a second. Please, Krishan, check your message. I have sent a private message. I have a Facebook page called Educationist. So you can definitely go there. Thank you, Krishan. So I'll just forward the, uh, it's going, yes. I'm sending you the private. Those who have filled, once again, I'm sending that, private as a private message. Publicly, I've already sent, but now I'll be sending as a private message. Thank you. Now I am sending the messages in the private chat also. So you can, if you are not finding that, please look into your private chat rooms here in the. So anybody wants to say something? Anybody wants to ask something? So we're not finished the session because the conclusion part is there. Thank you. Is there any participant from Chandigarh University as well?
Yes, good afternoon, Ashmeet. It's Kavalpreet Sahni this side from Chandigarh University.
Hi, Kavalpreet.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Good, great. Thank you so very much. I would like to really appreciate, you took your own graceful time, and it was, you were not rushing. And as a layman, if I have to start my book, because I'm looking forward, I don't know whether I'll be able to accomplish, but yes, I'm very keen, and that's give me, a lot of. I got really motivated, when I heard this, that the power of writing is nobody is, is that nobody is there to restrict you. That gives me liberty, and a lot of enthusiasm to look forward to. I have written 4 to 5 research papers, but I'm really keen.
Great.
I just wanted to, not for commercial purpose, I just really want to for my own self-confidence in writing, and I wanted to share and guide my students how to write,
Great, ma'am. Great, ma'am.
just to improve my writing skills. So it was a wonderful session. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with me, for everybody. And
Yeah, one of my colleagues is also there, Shweta Chaudhary. She's
hi,
from the
hi.
department. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Great, great, ma'am.
And we got to know about this through our head of the department, Mr.
HUD, ma'am.
Shashika
Yes.
Chadha. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I have
She
shared.
messaged everybody. Yeah. She
Yes,
messaged everybody in the group, faculty group. So we all can, so we are going to be, saying thank you to her.
Yes, I have shared the infographic to her, and she was so kind that she shared with the students and the you know faculty member. I'm also very thankful to her, ma'am. And thank you all of you that you have joined, because you are also sharing your time, your precious time. So thank you so much once again, ma'am. Thank you, Krishan. Yes, those who want to leave, they can. And in conclusion session, we will be just discussing the things like what we have already completed. For instance, we started with what is a book. We get a brief idea about that. Then we went on discussing the structure of the book. It is the beginning, middle, and end. And then we moved on to the content part, and then what content runs, and then we completed the ISBN section also. So the purpose of this webinar is to motivate everybody, or create the burn that fire to write a book, because I have experienced that before, because you will be then considered, like, the perspective of the world will change drastically after you become an author. People will respect you, and if you're helping people with your uh, if your book can help people, then that's one of the thing which is, I think, which is the most desirable part of this art. Thank you once again, everybody, those who have filled the feedback form. I'll be sending you the certificates by tomorrow evening to everybody who has attended this webinar since the very beginning. Thank you, Krishna. So we'll close the session now. We'll complete the session. And once again, I thank you, everybody. especially the group from Chandigarh University. I'm so excited that you joined, and the people from Philippines and Russia and those who have joined. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Hope this session has, incited something in you. I'm ending this session. Thank you so much for joining. Best of luck.